Good evening, I'm Jake Samoila.
And I'm Nancy Flaherty. Welcome to Marquette Now.
Coming up, a parade tragedy.
How a verdict impacts students miles away.
A 600-year-old building is opening its doors again.
And campus lighting up with holiday spirit.
All that and more, starting right now.
From the Jeannie Hayes Virtual Studio, this is Marquette Now.
A joyous celebration turned tragedy. On November 21st, a red SUV plowed through Waukesha Holiday Parade route.
The following video contains graphic content that may be sensitive for some viewers. Discretion is advised. Marquette Now's Sarah Richardson has the story.
The cheers of celebration from children and families fill the air as marching bands, dancers, and even Santa parade down Main Street on Sunday, November 21st at the Waukesha Holiday Parade. What was once a joyous celebration turned into fear as a red SUV plows down the middle of the parade route at about 4:40 p.m., killing 6 and injuring 62, many being children. 39-year-old Darnell Brooks has been charged with 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Brooks had been bailed out of jail 48 hours prior to the incident and was allegedly fleeing a domestic disturbance when he plowed through the parade. Videos on social media show the chaos of attendees running around, screaming, pom-poms lying on the ground along with those injured. Other bystanders race to aid while others run into nearby shops. The parade is held annually, bringing together local civic groups, businesses, schools, public services, and entertainers each year. This year's theme is Comfort and Joy, according to the Lake County Family Fund website. The following day, the city of Waukesha held a vigil for those lost in the parade at Cutler Park. I'm Sarah Richardson, Marquette Wire News.
And joining us now, live in the newsroom, is Sarah Richardson with the Key Eyewitness. Kaylee Starl is a Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel business news intern and has reported for Marquette Now. Sarah?
Thanks, Nancy and Jake. I'm here with Kaylee Starl, who was at the Waukesha Parade and was first to break the news on Twitter. Kaylee, how are you feeling now that several days have passed after the parade?
I'm okay. I think for a while it was hard to even process what had happened, right? But as we approach, a week since it happened, I think it's now looking forward to moving forward and healing and kind of processing what happened.
Mm-hmm. And so, paint the picture for me. Would you mind just describing what happened at the parade and at the incident? What did you see when you were there?
Of course. So we had just moved to Waukesha over the summer, me and my family. And so I was at the parade with my mom and my stepdad. And just to get to know the city a little bit better, right? It's the annual holiday parade, and it's a pretty big deal in Waukesha. And so we got to downtown Waukesha probably around 3:35. Parade started at 4. And I wasn't sure what to expect, right, because of COVID, but there were a lot of people there, especially there was a ton of families with little kids, right? You have kids with their hats and gloves and blankets and all the candy bags, and everyone's drinking hot chocolate and everything. So, people were there to have a good time and celebrate the holiday season. And so there's nothing out of the ordinary. The parade starts, you have, the cheerleaders, and you have the marching bands and, all the old cars honking their horns. And then around 4:35, you hear a bunch of people start to scream. And your first thought is maybe it's Santa Claus, because Santa sometimes comes at the end of the parade and maybe people were excited. But the next thing you see this red SUV just come barreling down the middle of the road. And you see it hit people, and it doesn't stop. It keeps going. And I think you realize in that moment that it wasn't an accident, like something bad is happening here. Yeah. So at least in front of me on the ground, there were 4 people that had been hit. And it was just a scene of complete, chaos and fear and stuff like that.
Sure. And so afterwards, there was a vigil for those who were lost or injured in the parade. How has this incident brought the community together?
Yeah, so I went to that vigil on Monday night on assignment for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And I was able to talk to a lot of the people there and kind of understand just Waukesha as a community. And Waukesha, from what everyone said, it's a very tight-knit community. Everyone has been there 20, 30 years and stuff like that. And so a ton of people from the community came out that night just to get together and grieve, and I think still just process what had happened. And so, that you think of where do you start in kind of processing this, right? And so that was definitely a start. And so, there's all these other things like the fundraising and different social media movements and things. So it's really just, I think, sticking together that's going to make the biggest impact moving forward.
That's right. And Kaylee, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for covering this event. We really appreciate it. And back to you, Jake and Nancy in the studio.
A long-awaited verdict has been reached down in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Marquette Now's Vanessa Rivera takes us there.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, the Kenosha courthouse behind me found Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 at the time of the shooting, not guilty on all 7 counts.
It was a bit surprising. I thought he was going to be guilty on at least 1 count. However, I was a bit surprised that he got a non-guilty verdict for all of them, which I think at the end of the day was the right decision. I was just surprised that the jury was able to do that.
Rittenhouse claims he went there to protect private property and act as a medic while carrying an AR-15. He killed 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum and 26-year-old Anthony Huber. He also injured 28-year-old Gage Grosskreutz. Rittenhouse claims he did this out of self-defense.
I think the fact that he kind of got out scot-free was a little disappointing for me, especially based on what he had done. And I think there was kind of a lack of, there was injustice in what happened. And I definitely thought better of our justice system, and I thought things would have gone a different way.
5 of the counts involves the use of a dangerous weapon: first-degree reckless homicide, 2 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, first-degree intentional homicide, and an attempt at first-degree intentional homicide. Counts 6 and 7, possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18, and failure to comply with an emergency order from the state or local government, were dismissed on the defense's motion, as found on the Wisconsin Circuit Court access.
When I heard the verdict about Kyle Rittenhouse, I wasn't really that surprised. It was just kind of unfortunate because I think it's just a prime example of how the justice system is out to support white privilege for the most part, and it's not holding people accountable for the mistreatment of minorities in society. And I think that's a prime example of why we have to continue to preach Black Lives Matter, because it's clearly not proven in today's society that people hold that to be true.
For more coverage on this story, go to marquettewire.org. I'm Vanessa Rivera, Marquette Wire News.
A campus staple is opening its doors once again. After months of construction, the St. Joan of Arc Chapel is welcoming students back with a newly renovated space. Bailey Stripling has the story.
The newly renovated St. Joan of Arc Chapel officially reopened Tuesday, November 30th.
It was just amazing to actually be here. I'm a sophomore this year, so it was the first time that I was able to be at a Joan of Arc Mass, but it was really great.
More than 400 people attended the 10 p.m. Mass, with 40 seats available inside the chapel and overflow space outside. For Marquette sophomore Owen Kratman, the reopening Mass was his first Mass at the chapel.
I've been lurking around Joan of Arc for the past couple of years and using it as a kind of reflection space and get all my thoughts out. I'll bring something to write stuff down in, or a book or something like that. And actually being able to go through Mass here, though, was a completely different experience, and it was very special to me because of all the experiences that I've had here beforehand.
The $3 million renovation included new roofing, security, and temperature control, as well as updates to the surrounding Gratitude Garden.
It looks beautiful. I love the stained glass window, right above the entrance. I'm very excited about that one. But just in general, I'm excited to be back. I used to go to 10 p.m. Mass every Tuesday, so excited to be back to it.
Following the reopening, all weekday Masses will move to the chapel while classes are in session. From the St. Joan of Arc Chapel, I'm Bailey Stripling, Marquette Wire News.
On top of the St. Joan of Arc reopening, the courtyard is lighting up.
The university Christmas tree officially lit a couple hours ago.
The community gathers in chorus.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Just earlier today, the first U.S. coronavirus Omicron variant case has been confirmed in San Francisco, California.
Originating in Europe, health officials are currently testing to see whether this new variant is more transmissible and severe than others, but the CDC is encouraging those 18 and older to get the booster vaccine. Those interested in receiving a booster vaccine can go to the local pharmacies in Milwaukee.
A new federal contractor COVID-19 guidance is requiring all Marquette University employees to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 by the start of next semester. Marquette's Time to Rise fundraising campaign has hit the $500 million mark in less than 5 years. Organizers are hoping for even more money to be raised, with a $750 million goal in mind.
We have a very loyal, passionate, and generous alumni, parents, and friends that people have stepped forward, especially in the last 2 years when we needed them most, when we were going through the pandemic, and still are in many cases. That our alumni, our parents, our friends believe in Marquette enough to invest their financial dollars, as well as a significant amount of their time, to make Marquette even better than it already is today.
Funds will be used for scholarships, program development, research advancements, and capital projects like St. Joan of Arc Chapel restoration and the new business building.
Tenured faculty can take advantage of the newly reinstated buyout policy as early as next semester. The university will provide certain benefits to a faculty member in return for the surrender of their tenure. Buyouts, however, are decreasing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
One change we made, for example, that immediate buyout heretofore was 100%. That was lowered to 75% of someone's salary. So that's going to save the university some money.
Coming up, holiday spirits are lighting up the campus.
And later, thoughts on what will be replacing Doghouse. We'll be right back.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Roll over. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting. Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor. It's time we take a step forward, come together,
and discover
how accepting our differences can make us stronger.
Welcome back to Marquette Now. I'm Jake Samoila.
And I'm Nancy Flaherty.
Holiday spirit is glowing on campus.
Students participate in Marquette's annual Giving Tuesday. From writing thank you letters to faculty and staff to donations, students found a way to give, including Marquette's backpack program.
It's a program where they give money, or we raise money to people that are just like in low-income communities that have come to Marquette so they can have like food and just school supplies, stuff like that, to help support them during their Marquette journey. We're writing thank you cards to teachers.
And of course, a little Marquette spirit.
And then if you donate to the backpack program, you can get a stocking, or you have a choice of a fanny pack as well.
One of Marquette's most award-winning restaurants, the Doghouse, has been closed for several months. Students are speculating what may take its place.
Chipotle.
Chick-fil-A.
Some sort of like store that has random stuff that college students would need.
Yeah, and anything that college students would use.
We might not know what will replace the doghouse, but for now, students can dream. Turning now on to some saddening news. A Marquette Law School alum is grieving his wife, who is still living.
Marquette Now's Timothy Leteau finds out why that is.
This former politician is on the campaign trail, but it's not one about politics. Instead, he's spreading awareness for a different sort of cause, caregiving for Alzheimer's patients.
Their job often goes unacknowledged. The family caregiver is the daily support. It's the daily lifeline for that patient living with the disease.
Former Governor of Wisconsin, Martin Schreiber, shares what it's like being that lifeline in his book, My Two Elaines.
If Alzheimer's is bad, ignorance of the disease is worse.
In which he recounts the journey he and his wife, Elaine, have been on in the 18 years since her Alzheimer's diagnosis.
You end up realizing that the smaller things are the bigger things.
And he shared his experiences with a variety of students considering careers in the healthcare field before Thanksgiving.
A caregiver for an Alzheimer's patient sees their loved one die a little bit every day, but there never is closure. And so Alzheimer's caregivers, and probably everybody in life, has to look at a situation and make a determination that whatever situation they're in, they are going to make the best of it.
Making the best of it in small doses.
Grab the moment and get every single ounce and moment of joy out of that situation that you can.
Those situations are sometimes the most unusual.
We were having lunch one time, and she started to cry. And I said, Elaine, why are you crying? Well, she said, I'm beginning to love you more than my husband. What that meant to me is that she did not have to know my name in order for our hearts to touch.
Where names are absent, love certainly is not. I'm Timothy Leteau, Marquette Wire News.
Despite us being in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we haven't actually seen an ounce of any decent snow coming towards the end of November, but our weatherman is certainly dressed for the job. Jake, what do you think about it?
I can't lie, the coat's looking fashionable.
Yes, well, I had to leave the coat on because, it's 20 days till winter and 24 days till Christmas. So let's take a look at our weather report right now. It is 47 degrees and the humidity is at 65% with 0% precipitation and winds coming in from the southwest at 11 miles an hour. Let's take a look at tonight's lows. Now we see here up in the north it's staying a little cold, but down here in the south in Milwaukee and Madison we are staying fairly decent at 46 and 44, which is a little warm for this time of the year. And then you see here in central Wisconsin in Minocqua and Green Bay is in the high and low 30s. Tomorrow's highs, let's take a look at those. Again, we see here in Milwaukee and Madison that it's going to be pretty nice, so take advantage of those days tomorrow on campus. But again, up in Superior and up in Minocqua, it's still going to be pretty chilly for the highs tomorrow. Tonight it is going to be cloudy with the lows in 46 and 67% humidity with a 5% precipitation rate and winds coming in from the southwest at 10 to 20 miles an hour. That wind does keep it chilly at night, so definitely bring a coat if you're walking home from the library. Tomorrow, like I said, it's going to be 53 in the highs and a 54% humidity rate and 20% precipitation with winds coming from the northwest at 15 to 25 miles an hour. So like I said, it's going to be pretty nice tomorrow, but again, that wind could kick in and make it a little chillier than it may seem. So now let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. We have pretty stable temperatures in the around 40 and the high 30s. So it's going to stay pretty consistent here. We're going to get some rain over the weekend and indeed as tomorrow. So that's it for weather, but stay with us because Amy Galashewski will be back with sports after this.
Have you ever seen somebody treated unfairly because of the color of their skin?
Do you guys know what it means to have white privilege?
What is racism and what do you think about it?
Talk to young children about what racism is, giving them the language to understand it. They can be disruptors. They can shape and shift culture.
We may not always know the answer, but we'll try and help you learn.
You don't have to have all the answers, but that doesn't mean we can't start.
Whatever,
are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
What are you looking for?
Welcome back. I'm Amy Galashewski with your Marquette Now Sports Report. The Marquette volleyball team is officially tournament bound. The Golden Eagles earned an NCAA tournament bid after missing out last season. Let's take a look at the team's reaction after hearing the big news. And the moment you've all been waiting for, Marquette heads out to West Lafayette, Indiana, as they will take on the University of Dayton in the first round tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. The Creighton Blue Jays over this past weekend. Tyler Peters was there for more.
Winner take all. For the 5th straight year, the Marquette Golden Eagles and the Creighton Blue Jays face off in the women's volleyball Big East Championship game. The Blue Jays look to win their 7th Big East title in 8 years, while the Golden Eagles seek their first since 2013. Right from the get-go, there's plenty of back-and-forth action between both squads as Creighton pulls away towards the end of set 1, taking it 25-20. Marquette storms out to a 14-8 lead in set 2, but Creighton answers right back, edging out a 25-22 victory. Set 3 is almost an exact repeat of set 1 with several lead changes throughout, but once again it's the Blue Jays squeaking out the win and securing the Big East Championship title.
Really good defensive effort by both teams, and I was really proud of the way we defended throughout. Just some really good efforts, and we just need to be a little bit sharper on offense, a little bit cleaner. Can't feed their block that much, but that's what they do. A little too higher to win today.
Big East Freshman of the Year Nora Sis led the way for the Blue Jays with 13 kills in the match. Despite the loss, redshirt sophomore Carly Scrawback and graduate student Taylor Wolf were named to the all-tournament team. After earning an NCAA tournament bid, Marquette will now face the University of Dayton in the first round.
We're looking forward to the draw and trying to get a couple rounds in this tournament thing.
Reporting from the Al McGuire Center, I'm Tyler Peters, Marquette Wire Sports.
Switching gears, the men's basketball team is 7-1 through its first 8 games. It's the program's best start since the 2011-2012 season. And Marquette welcomed in Jackson State last night. Kylie Getz has more.
After being on the road, the Golden Eagles are here back at Pfizer Forum, and so are the students and fans. The Marquette Golden Eagles defeat Jackson State Tigers 83-54 and remain undefeated at home. With the slow first half, the two teams go into halftime tied 29-29. The Golden Eagles quickly pick it up and bring the heat against the Tigers in the second half.
I thought our guys did a good job of turning the page, supporting each other, and again, coming out with good defensive energy in the second half.
Redshirt first year, Oso Iguodaro finishes with his first career double-double of 14 points and 11 rebounds.
I'm just getting comfortable with the system and just finding ways to impact the game. I may not have a stat line like this every game, but I try to impact the game every time I get in.
The Tigers were unable to keep up with the Golden Eagles throughout the remainder of the game. Marquette improves to 7-1 on their season and will face their in-state rival, Wisconsin, this Saturday. Reporting from Pfizer Forum, I'm Kylie Getz, Marquette Wire Sports.
Well, that's it for sports, but don't go anywhere. Marquette Now will be right back with our Down to the Wire segment after the break.
after you joined our family, it was like, I really do feel complete now.
Welcome back. I'm Jake Samoila.
And I'm Nancy Flaherty.
Marquette Wire Executive News Editor Megan Woolard joins us tonight for tonight's edition of Down to the Wire.
She's with Clara LeBron to talk about her recent Marquette Tribune article about the Rittenhouse trial. Megan?
Thanks, Jake and Nancy. Claire, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your first time on Down to the Wire?
Yes, it is.
So this week for the Marquette Tribune, you wrote an article about the campus reaction to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I know that we talked about earlier in the show that this was a national trial that had a lot of heated opinions about this, but I know you mentioned in your article that this held extra weight for some students on Marquette's campus. Why is that?
Well, seeing as Marquette is like a mere 30-minute drive or so from the Kenosha County Courthouse, it's kind of easy to see why like the distance between us makes it easier for it to be a very pressing issue on campus and kind of to like shape campus culture as a whole.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that this trial was held at the Kenosha County Courthouse. So what was the verdict of that trial? Remind us.
Well, Rittenhouse did have many charges stacked against him, including 2 charges of homicide. But at the end of the day, he was acquitted of all charges.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of the reactions that you found as you talked to campus community members about this acquittal?
Well, as the verdict was publicized, you could very fast see a lot of different opinions and a lot of short opinions. But as you talk to people, you kind of just saw the issues that people had within the verdict. For example, as Rittenhouse had said that he went to the protest to protect people and to protect businesses, some people saw that vigilantism could be a rising issue as he was acquitted, and people could take this as a go-ahead to go and attempt to protect businesses. And some people saw it through the lens of race, where they saw this as another injustice in the justice system against people of color. And some people just agreed with the verdict. They found it to be fair, and they found it to be the best ruling possible.
Yes, so you mentioned a little bit earlier to me off camera that you had trouble finding a lot of people to voice their opinions to you for this article. Sort of what were the reasons that people were a little bit hesitant?
Well, the verdict was very pressing, and it was very intense for a lot of people. It made some people uncomfortable. It kind of raised a lot of issues for a lot of people, so I can understand why it was difficult to get a lot of student voices on the issue and kind of make their opinion publicized. But at the same time, it was also Thanksgiving break, so people were running around campus, going back home, so I understand why it was so difficult to find voices for the story.
Yet even though it was difficult, you were able to find quite a few voices to put in your article. So for those who haven't had a chance to read it yet, who were some of the people that you did end up talking to?
Well, I did end up talking with the ex-chair of the Young Democrats and one of the e-board members of the Young Republicans. And apart from that, I just tried to look for people on campus, and I did end up talking to a first year who is majoring in criminology and had a very interesting outlook on the case.
Mm-hmm. I know we also had another article in there about law professors reacting to that as well. That is all the time that we do have for tonight, though, Clara, so thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I will send it back to Jake and Nancy in the studio.
That's our report for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jake Samoila.
And I'm Nancy Flaherty. Remember to check MarquetteWire.org for all the latest campus news. Good night, Marquette.
Thanks for waiting, guys.